Rhine River, flowing peacefully through the hills of West Germany. More than 30 castles stand silently above its shores. But every once in a while, that silence is briefly interrupted by a bit of modern American technology.
Now, not all of them get the spectacular bird's-eye view of the gorgeous Rhine River Valley, as do the pilots of the 62nd Aviation Company, but you've got to admit they live and work in one of the most beautiful areas of the world.
Even with such vivid scenery, there is one aspect of life here that is still a little touch of home for the American service personnel.
AFN.
The American Forces Network signs on every morning at 9 o'clock, bringing everything from local news to happy days into the living rooms, or should I say barracks, of the 500,000 servicemen and women stationed throughout Europe. It all started back in 1942, when the Armed Forces Radio Service went on the air to keep the soldiers who were fighting World War II in touch with things going on back home. It also helped in combating the propaganda war being waged by Tokyo Rose and Axis Sally. In 1953, television broadcasts were added to the radio shows, and within 30 years, hundreds of transmitting stations were set up all over the world.
We're the voice of home. We bring the entertainment, the news, the information. It's essential.
This is Lieutenant Colonel Charles Crescione, the commander of AFN Europe.
The American Forces Network is the single most important service that affects the morale of our audience.
Most of the service people we talk to would certainly agree with that.
If you have something that reminds them of home, they might be, they could be a lot more comfortable in their atmosphere.
After work, you want to unwind and you go and watch some TV.
My first tour here, there was no American television, and it was very boring. I think that soldiers in those days got in more trouble than soldiers do now. I think it helps the soldier to be more disciplined because it does give them a part of home.
I enjoy it.
Most of the programming that runs on the AFN channel is supplied by the 3 major American television networks. So, in effect, they're getting the best of our 3 channels all on one station. And it seems like no matter where they play, the favorites are still the favorites.
I like Dallas.
I like to watch MASH.
The show Fame.
60 Minutes, and give me a break,
And some of the things they want more of may surprise you.
Also, I wish they would have more up-to-date versions of Phil Donahue.
Better cartoons. I know a lot of people love cartoons because they make you laugh. And sometimes we get thinking home and get homesick and we want to laugh, so cartoons help a lot.
Besides the programs supplied by American television networks, AFN also produces its own daily local shows. It's done right here at Broadcast Headquarters and Studio Operations Center in Frankfurt. And talk about ratings. An average United States news program may get a 15 rating. Over here, the nightly newscast is viewed by a whopping 70% of the personnel. Their newscast is put together in much the same way as local television stations in America assemble their shows. 3 camera teams are on call to cover anything from German politics to medical stories. On the day we accompanied their crews, one was sent to the Frankfurt Opera House to tape a Broadway extravaganza.
It's a hell of a town!
It was an I Love New York campaign to entice the service folks to visit the Big Apple on their way home. The other crew had a more military-type assignment. They were putting together a series on the people who keep the Army's helicopters flying.
Check the fuel with that. Yeah, I can say something like it's not Pepsi, but it's benzene.
This is not an 8-to-5 job. It calls for 14, 16-hour days. But the job satisfaction is fantastic because they do have that opportunity to learn and to hone their talents, if you will.
Another important function of AFN is to help the soldiers get used to the local traditions, customs, and language in these foreign cities. A program called Passport is produced once a month and deals with everything from sightseeing in Germany to how to make a local telephone call. But the biggest production each year is their coverage of the NATO war maneuvers, which occur every September. Virtually every AFN staff member is out in the field, producing daily reports on the progress of the blue and orange teams, practicing battle strategies all across Europe. One of the ways staff members keep up with the latest in television technology is by inviting guest lecturers from the States to give seminars. One recent instructor was Channel 4's PM Magazine executive producer, Oscar Welch.
Well, can we pick a brand that, and just pretend like it's sitting right here?
They bring in fresh ideas. It's like a shot in the arms for my young broadcasters. First of all, it shows that we care enough to be able to provide this continuing education so they can continue to grow.
Lieutenant Colonel Crescione is very intent on constantly improving the look of AFN. It shows in the care he takes in critiquing his programs and the time he spends making the rounds of his different departments. And it is seen by the people watching in the barracks, who like to know that they're not forgotten. If you had your choice of any job in the world, what would you do?
This is it. I love my job.